I remember someone in the industry went, how do I know who's the manager? And I went, is it ticking over? Who's checking? Who's talking to guests? Who's touching tables? Who's looking at ticket times? And they were like, that girl there. I went, that's the manager. And what they're actually doing is not managing. I've got a uniform, I've got a position of power so I can lord it over you. And I walk around a clipboard and I'm not really bothered about my team. I'm not really about the guests. Early doors, you've got to be a super team player. Even if you're leading, you've got to be on the pitch.
Graham, thank you for doing this, mate. Yeah, super excited. As I said to you when we were, when I came in here, one, I massively huge respect for this brand, Ole Steen, but also I liked your career running up to today. So, you know, sort of Wagamama, the chippies, which we're going to talk about because I love a good fucking fish and chips. Caravan, Laura and Chris have been on this poddy. Jess is a really good mate of mine, and then obviously, you know, Nick Jones at SoHo House. So I think it's a real nice mix of different cultures, you know, Kiwi, Danish, British, potentially Japanese, which I love. And so there's that part, but then I'm also really excited to explore the operator part. As I said to you, I've had so many founders on this podcast, but there's definitely a tension between founder and operator. That can either be a wonderful jazz-like dance, or it can be a sort of, you know, malevolent kind of just head-bashing arguments all the time. So thanks, mate. I'm excited.
Absolute pleasure.
Let's start with chippies and looking through it through an operational lens and eye, because I think this will give us sort of fertile territory to how we sort of get onto the other parts. So talk me through, like, what are some of the operational headaches of running successful fish and chip restaurants?
You're dealing with two natural products. So unlike burger, pizza, or whatever, you're dealing with fish that won't go, yeah, I'll be exactly this every single time. So you can buy weight, you can buy size to a certain degree, but you can't flex that in your prices unless you know, uber cool and doing it all by weight. And the same with potatoes, you know, doing the business for, I think I probably did it nearly 6 years. 1 year was, you know, absolute shite harvest. And, you know, luckily we had such a good relationship with our potato merchant that we were getting it, but our yield from a 40 kilo bag would be half of what you used to do. You can't suddenly go, hey customers, I'm doubling the price of chips, because they'll tell you where to go. So you've got that fluctuation, and I think the reason that I was, you know, kind of lucky is really good relationships with our suppliers that would fix the price for the year. So we could go, okay, we haven't got that fluctuation, we know what we're dealing with, and then really getting close to them. So I went all the way to Norway, Osland, went on the vessel, didn't go out to sea because they're out for ages, but went on the vessel, met the captain so I could come back, tell the team, tell the customers, oh yeah, this is you know, this is us. You know, we used to go out with the farmer, David. He used to take me up round the fens. We'd go to the pub at lunchtime. Sometimes we'd leave, sometimes we didn't. But you know,
Where was this? Sorry, this was in.
This was Deep Blue, and then when I had my own business, Catch.
Yeah. So sorry, no. Where were you going to the pub? Like, what was
Cambridge. So we were up kind of up past the fen, so kind of almost borderline of Leicestershire, Lincolnshire, Cambridge.
Yes, cool.
And you know, he walked the fields pretty much every day, and he could tell me exactly what was happening. You know, would get the royal tour, and he'd be like, "They're your potatoes. These are the potatoes for, you know, the kind of the Chinese chippies, and these are pig food, and those are." And he was like, "Oh, I can't say." I'm like, "What?" He said, "No, I can't say.
Who was it? Who was it?
It was for a well-known crisp company that aren't real crisps.
That based in Leicester.
You know, you flip it until you can't stop thing. in the tube.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, that? He said, yeah, there's no, what you think, there's real, like, loads of potato in that product. I'm like, wow. Scary but true. So really, really lucky in terms of all of the other challenges. And I think that there's lots of mum and pop operations. So, it's kind of in the family. So you're not as hard on yourself as you probably should be.
Well, just for context, so Deep Blue for listeners, that was, how many sites was that? It was a chain.
Yeah. I joined and we had 2. I left and we were in the mid-30s.
Yeah.
And, we would literally go to a town, find the rundown fish and chip shop where, people were in their 60s going, we've had enough.
Yeah.
Buy the shop, rebrand it, redo it, quality products, quality people, quality service. And suddenly, you bought a shop that was doing $2,000 a week and you're doing 20.
Yeah.
So that was the model.
And how would you, because I think chippies are so, it's because as I was saying to you, my mate's he's got a massive property business, done really well, but he was thinking about going into opening a chippy because he's like, mate, the fucking margins are absurd if you can get it right.
Yeah.
What are you doing differently? Because this applies to any business. You go in, you say, right, how, I get like improving the decor and improving but how do you get it something from 2K a week or a month, whatever it is, a week to 20K? That's 10xing something. Like,
yeah.
What was the deep blue?
You're looking at that mix of who uses you. So
when you, as in like the shopper, as in a consumer.
So you're looking at the consumer, and you're looking. So if the town had a Waitrose, we'd kind of go, right, tick.
Yes.
We know that, and it's that. Do you go with the demographic, or do you do the kind of psychographic that you're all kind of into? And we kind of did that piece of work, and it just was, we got a couple of, brands that we could go, they've done their homework, and then did that. Usually, you'd put hard-working people in there and give them a really nice little slice of the pie. And that made all the difference. You've got a character behind the range, frying, that can see you. Dan, I don't know, I've got a massive one. And we'll just, that little bit of theatre, it just makes such a difference from your usual, what are you having, mate?
Yeah.
Be about 10 minutes. And I lived in, at the time, I lived in Banstead in Surrey.
Oh, mate, yeah, that's like, this is where my mate lives.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I know that very well, yeah.
So our local chip shop.
You've been to La Rage, the curry house, just out of interest.
Yes.
Fucking banging, isn't it? Yeah,
really good.
Yeah.
He always manages to sell you a little file sauce on the side. No matter what you're having.
It's the best curry, it's the most underrated curry in the world.
Super good.
Yeah, sorry.
My local chippy, super expensive, super affluent area, and every Friday I'd go there and be like, it's 2 products, you need to get at the same time. And you'd queue for 20 minutes and it'd be like, just waiting for the chips, mate. You're like, how difficult can this be? And, the guy had one shop, absolutely minted, got to that success syndrome of, I don't need to keep trying harder, I've got these people. And I just thought, this is just something, if you can execute it really well. The packaging, we spent a lot of time and working out.
This was the Deep Blue.
Yeah, this is Deep Blue.
Yeah.
I did catch after I left it.
We'll get on to that, yeah.
But packaging and just raising everything, and also just doing fish and chips. So you should do burgers, you should do pizza, you should do kebabs, and I get the single operator gets kind of blindfolded and just sees.
Why do you think people do that? Because that's one thing. A friend of the show, Rory Southern, he says just do one thing well.
Correct.
Yes, just do one thing
1,000%.
But then I go to Isha.
Yeah.
Have you been to the Bear in Isha?
Yeah.
Local booze, I love it. They've got it's called Isha Best K over the road.
Yeah.
When I'm drunk, I'm in there, and they do the most phenomenal kebab known to man.
Yeah.
But they've also got a plethora of other things on the menu, and I'm like, I just don't. From their perspective, I don't understand why they're doing that, because it's like surely it's just like economies of scale. Just get the kebab right, get the fish and chips right, get the pizza right.
Yeah.
But why do you think from their perspective they add on this whole litany of different things?
They'll be told, it'd be really good if you did this.
Yeah.
And then at some point a salesman will come in and go, if you did this, look at that. And what they don't realise is that their sales of fish and chips, say we're $10,000 a week, and then they suddenly add kebabs,
Yes.
And they're going, I'm doing 12 grand a week. But what happens over a little period of time is that 2 just creeps in, and then they'll sink back down to the 10, but they've lost a big chunk, 20% of their core. And then they go, remember when I did kebabs? We got a big lift. I'm going to do burgers. And then they get another big lift. And because they're taking...
constant cycle of trying to
Totally. And they're taking their eye off what is the absolute one thing, the key thing you got to get right. Because the difference between a great bit of fish and a bad bit of fish is 30 seconds. Literally in the range. Yeah. It's 30 seconds. And then suddenly you got a pizza oven. And you've doubled your overheads of electricity. You're going, I need more staff. I've got to get different packages in. You're getting a harder time from the EHO because you have all these different chopping boards. And you just get in the weeds. Instead of going 2 suppliers, one for chips, one for fish, I've now got the kebab guy. The kebab guy comes on a Tuesday morning. I've got to get up early for him. And you just lose total focus. You just kind of, this goes on this pursuit of trivial pursuits. I've got to get one of every pie. No, just stick with your one pie and smash it. And that's what I did with catch. I added things like salmon.
So catch was, talk me through catch.
Catch, I just took fish and chips and elevated it to another level.
And you had your own physical stores?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
Yeah, Kent. I looked because of Deep Blue, and
Is Deep Blue the one in Cobham?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's not anymore, is it?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So that's my chippy. I know this chippy well. Yeah.
So they bought Harry Ramsden, so they've got that. They've gone international, doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
But I thought there was an opportunity to just elevate it even more.
Yes.
People didn't always want chips, so there was other options.
What were the other options?
Just salads, different ways of doing potatoes, elevated the packaging even more, got different types of fish. So, like not rock salmon, but proper fillets of salmon. Would grill stuff, so not everything was just through the range. So I had grills, so you could come in and go, just want a Dover sole, dude. Just want a Dover sole. I've got everything at home sorted. I'm going to walk in, put it on, me and the missus, bottle of wine, Dover sole. Yeah. So I did that. Which was good fun. Working on your own is not good fun.
Where were you? Sorry, they were down in Kent.
Yeah, so I was travelling to Kent every day.
From Banstead?
From Banstead, which was great fun. And sitting on the motorway, and then, obviously you had the problems with the Channel Tunnel. There's a backup, and 2.5 years was just like, nah.
And what, because I think you learn a lot from people's mistakes. And
Huge.
What were some of those biggest mistakes you made with catch? Because I think every category can be premiumized. Mm-hmm. There's a brilliant business called Willie's Pies.
Yep.
Who again, pie and mash shops have kind of, kind of dwindled, you could say.
Yeah.
Then there was a massive room for someone to come and premiumize pies, elevate pies. He worked at St. John. He worked at Brat.
Oh, wow.
So he's got the chef background. They go to H.G. Walter to get their ingredients. 3 pies, fucking does it well, into Ocado. And I think one of the categories I think which is ripe for innovation is fish and chips. You've got Pop Art. Is it Poppy's, which is the old school one in East London, I think.
Yeah.
And then...
Yeah, they've got a couple. They've got one in Soho as well, I think.
Yeah, and they've got one in... Where were we the other day?
Shoreditch, just by the Truman Brewery.
Yeah. I think it was when we were recording that podcast last week. Yeah, anyway, around that. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Truman Brewery. So they're sort of the best in class. But then, I think fish and chips, there's room there. But I'd love to know what happened, what went wrong, what the 1 to 3 things.
Location. It was just, wearing down, and you kind of do a 12-hour day and you're like, I got to drive home, I got to be up at 6, got to drive back. And you kind of get into that moany cul-de-sac of, I think also just always being in big companies of going, right, I need to do some marketing. That'll be me. I need to do the accounts and, do all the NI payments, etc. That'll be me. I need to do a risk assessment because one of the girls has pregnant. So who's going to do that? Oh, that'll be me. And you suddenly just got to become everything, like an octopus. And I think that bit of admin, hate admin, really, really detest it. Left school, worked in offices, worked in the city. I'm just like, no way. I need to meet different people every day. I need to have something, different landscape every day. So they were the two real big things. Opened a second site in Canterbury, and just didn't do my homework. Was probably a little bit...
What didn't you do about it?
A little bit arrogant. I just made this assumption that Canterbury was super posh. And I went there when tourists were there. I'm like, man, ace footfall. This is brilliant. And it took a really long while to do the deal. And it just didn't... I mean, it was good, but it was just nowhere near as good as I wanted it to be. And literally after the first month, when you open a business, that kind of 12 to 18 week period, that's where you're going to be. That is where you're going to open, and that's where your turn will be. And we were probably about 5k a week off where I wanted that to be, and then suddenly to lift that, for every grand that you're off, you got to spend 10 grand in marketing minimum. And just didn't pick the right site. So, I know when you roll stuff out, you get 1 in 15 wrong that's not quite right. But for your second one, I guess I probably fell a little out of love of it. Had some people that wanted to invest, and then kind of looked at some other sites that were better, and then did the maths and thought, I'm going to work my nuts off for the next 5 years and just kind of still be earning this level, working for 5 times harder. And just started chatting to my silent partner, and was like, yeah, no problem, we're good, I'll take it.
I think there's knowing when to quit is a hard, because it's like it's one of those things that I say this a lot on the podcast. It's one that don't quit is both right and wrong.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't quit if you're doing something that could actually work. Like, keep fucking going, right? But like, I'm about 5'2", mate. If I'm saying I want to be an NBA player and be a basketball player, I probably should quit that. Just because, like, if you look at the actual the likelihood of it being a success. But I think the whole idea of like never quit, man, all this hustle entrepreneurship, like just keep going. It's like, well, actually, if it's not working, have the kind of put the ego aside and say, right, totally, it's time to quit and just move on.
And it's funny in other situations, other jobs, our chairman's just like, you are so resilient. I can't believe how resilient you are. And at that time, I think it was just that passion and that love had just started to creep away. So that normal bit of, being super resilient and, whatever chip you've got on your shoulder, pardon the pun, that just keeps you going. I just kind of lost that. And just fell out of love.
So one thing we were talking about is the founder operator tension.
Yes.
So what you detailed there of the octopus and having to literally do, everything's on you. That's almost like you've come from the sort of the operator background, and then working with the being the founder, you realise it's kind of a very different game. As the business scales, you need operators and you need founders. Founders have the magic. Operators create the scaffolding that actually builds business. Let's talk about Nick Jones, SoHo House. You worked with him for X number of...
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
I think SoHo House are one of those businesses that have scaled but kept their panache and the twinkle in their eye and the uniqueness of it. And they've gone across like multiple different brands as well. Mm-hmm. Like Molly's Motel, all that stuff. Talk to me about founder operator tension. Like, from an operator's perspective, what's the best way to work with the founder's magic, but then build the scaffolding around it to create?
I think you got to come in. The big one is that you're both starting with empty bank accounts of trust. So you've got to kind of in the first 3-6 months, there are going to be situations that are going to test you both. And I think it's that first few steps and how you react, how the trust is between you, how the honesty is, if you're, bullshitting, and I've, seen, what it's like people to bullshit Nick, you get caught out really badly. And at the end of the day, it's a little bit like, when you have a kid and you take it to school, you hand it over to the teacher and you're not really sure what's going on. You've got a rough idea, but it's just like, that's just my everything that I'm handing to you. And they're like, yeah, bye, see ya, off you go. And for a founder to kind of relinquish control, there's got to be that trust, and there's got to be that, do you really get what I see? And I think with certainly working with Nick, just standing back and just watching him is what you've got to do. You got to.
So when you sat back and watched him, what did you observe? Like, why is he such a force?
Phenomenal. I mean, seriously, the guy is a titan. Every single person, he knows their name. I honestly got nicknames for all my friends because I haven't got a clue what their names are. My name bucket is, there.
Yep.
Pretty much everyone's either mate or Hanson because, oh, that's right, your name's David, whatever. But he knows everyone's name. He's just so charming. He makes everyone feel special. I mean, you can just see. He walk in, light up a room, identify people. Oh, how you doing? You've been with us now 10 years. Amazing. Do you remember when we did this? Do you remember when we did that? And people, literally grow a foot after he's left the room.
Yeah.
His attention to detail is above and beyond. So we, at Molly's, for example, we did a mock-up bedroom. And he's there going, right, where's the chair? Right, that is 3 millimeters too low. Because I want to work on my laptop. And where's the plug? I don't want my lead going over here, so the plug socket's going to go there. He's got this whole thing about showers. So when you say at SoHo House, the shower taps are nowhere near the shower head.
Why is that?
Because if the water is at the wrong temperature, you're either burning or freezing your arse off.
Wow, yes.
And you can adjust it there. So you can just go boom, 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 there. And it's just that.
Any other little beautiful details like that, the way he'd operate?
Just everything,
Yeah.
He'd be like, no, wrong mayonnaise. I know we've got a GP, but it's the wrong mayonnaise. This is the mayonnaise that you need. When we were doing the drive-thru, Molly's, we had the motel and the diner. And I was like, we're going to do a drive-thru. Okay, let's just try and keep up with him. We were looking at all the design and, he goes, well, what do you think? What do you think? And I said, well, I've been to In-N-Out, I've been to Mackie D's, and they all have at least 2 windows. We've got 1. And we ended up going to the farmhouse overnight in the big barn and mapping out with tape the whole drive-thru. So the Monday morning he pitches up, and at the time you're thinking, really? I've got to pretend I'm in a Range Rover going through the drive-thru? But honestly, the amount of screw-ups we avoided with the flow, deliveries, and we're suddenly going, but the delivery is going to mix with our customers, and that's going to be a complete nightmare. So we created a whole little road for deliveries and that whole flow.
So you're literally at Soho Farmhouse with masking tape.
Masking tape on the floor.
This was Nick's idea.
Yeah.
He's
like, I don't like these plans. I want to, almost like the Joey from Friends. I want to be in it.
Yeah. No, it's wonderful.
And it was literally, where are the cups? Okay, the cups there. Where are the napkins? They're there. The till's there. Okay, where's the ice? And it was just literally, when that ice goes, where's my backup ice? Well, you go and, and the designer's going, well, you go to the ice machine. He's like, I'm serving people. I can't be doing that.
Yeah.
And it was just
amazing.
Every single detail you can think of.
Amazing, yeah. And then from the other side, from the operator's side of the kind of the dichotomy or the interrelated relationship of the two, how do you take that? The shower head is the founder's genius. Shower taps to head separation is the founder's genius. But then the scaffolding to do this at scale.
Yeah.
To actually build a business to to have that vision and let it run through management processes and systems. Like, talk to me how you did that, or how that happened at SoHo House, because
standards. Talk
to me more about
the
that.
other amazing thing about Nick is he will remember everything. He sees everything, and he's constantly in the houses, you know, and he's got this whole thing, I'm going to surprise them, but they're like, just to let you know, Nick's on the way to you. And he just, you know, the team that he assembled, you got Martin, who's got Dover Street now, the restaurant on Dover Street. Phenomenal.
What was your role there? Sorry.
So I was the MD of the kind of external bit, Dirty Burgers, Pizza East, Molly's. So that was like a little separate, this is to the public facing, not the houses.
Right.
You know, Nick, I remember he wasn't happy with food in general in the houses. So to run the UK, he picked Tom Collins, who was the exec chef. It was like, this is my statement of intent.
Tom Collins.
To the entire business. So I think Tom's now like the CEO.
Right.
Or you know, like looking after, I'm pretty sure he is.
Yeah.
And again, attention to detail. Great guy, you know. And Nick would, you know, he phoned me up at 7:30 on a Sunday morning. The beans are fucked. So, Nick, you all right? Yeah, the baked beans. I'm at Molly's. The beans are fucked. Right, okay. Tell me, they're watering them down. It's like, okay, give me 10 minutes. Hold on 1 second. Speak to the exec chef. Yeah, we had them in the bain-marie, but they were just going all a bit slodgy. So what we do, the bain-marie's at a certain temperature, then we put them in the ramekin, then we put the ramekin on the plancha, and that warms them up. I'm like, so the juice is going to the top, beans are floating down to the bottom, it looks like we've watered them down. Yes, chef. Right, let's fix that, and let's fix it in 30 seconds. Call Nick back, this is what's happened. And he's like, right, I've got you. So you've just, and the problem...
This is what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
This is the darling example of how, from your perspective, mate, the operator deals with the founder's chaos.
Totally.
So you've met Richard today. I'm basically that. I'll be like, why the fuck is that? Like, I had this the other day. Like, why is that shot?
Yeah.
I was like...
Yeah.
And it's not me being malicious or rude. I'm just like, I'm seeing it, I'm like panicking, being like, why the fuck is like, why is the shot? The shot was slightly off. I called him straight away. I'm like, and he's very good at like appeasing that. But from your side, and there'll be a lot of people listening to this, or even founders who just need to just get in their box a bit. So what's your approach?
I think
you take the sting out of things? Or what?
Yeah, you've got to take the sting out of things.
How do you do that? What's the nuance?
And I think you've got to, don't argue. You know, I've always said, you know, throughout my career, whether it's a chef or a founder, arguing with a chef is like wrestling a pig in mud.
Yeah.
After 10 minutes, you realise that the pig's fucking enjoying it.
Yeah.
Just don't even bother. Just go, right, take it on the chin. Don't try and make excuses or bullshit. Yeah. And then when everything's calmed down, you got to understand how important it is and the process to fix that. Because founders have got so much going on in their head that you can't just go sit down and tell me everything. You've just got to get it bit by bit and understand what are the real levers. You know, it's like, okay, their uniform wasn't absolutely spot on. I could see that he let that go, but I'll pick that up. And you then start to share the same language of going, you know, be like, you know, how's your coffee? So, it's not quite spot on. No, mine's not spot on either. Glad you saw that. And you just start sharing the same language. You build that trust up. You've got to see the business through their eyes. And then just keep having those honest dialects of going, really, how important is this? You know, or some businesses that I've been in, you know, oh, my mate's coming in for another freebie. It's like, dude, we spent 3 hours going through a P&L and you're pissing away another 300 quid for your mate, who I reckon is only your mate because you give him freebies every month.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
Yeah.
And you just create and build that and build that and build that. And yeah, I mean, boring real shit like processes of this is how we do baked beans, which, you know, is a big deal.
Yeah. And then what I find interesting is you said you hated admin, but you like processes. Like, what's the difference? Because I think processes can get you can get bogged down in the semantics and minutiae.
Oh, totally. And that's the other bit. I think Nick's got this real passion for middle managers that just don't get stuff done. he just loses it, and I get it. It's just like because people kind of see this guy who's got great ideas, they try and match his ambition, so they will do the overpromise, underdeliver, time and time again. Just loses his shit of middle managers.
Oh wait, so you think the art of great middle management is to underpromise and overdeliver?
Totally.
Yes.
Totally. What is reality? What can you do? And if you think you can do it, surprise them. Oh, that thing that we said would take a month, we've only gone and aced it in a week. Oh, well done. I'm playing the game. I've built up your trust account a little bit more.
Wow.
And then you then get to that point. It's like, come on, you can do this by 5 o'clock, can't you?
Yes.
Yeah, I can.
Let's keep pulling on this thread because this is brilliant, mate. What other ways of success? Because I know I'll be brutally honest. Like, I think you can change your mind on things. And I have changed my mind. Probably when I started the podcast, I was because I'd had a few run-ins with middle managers, and we'll get on to that. People who come in, the executive, senior executive fallacy, they come in and try and... That's an art, which we'll talk about. Yeah. They ruffle the feathers, everyone fucked off, everyone left the business. So I've seen examples where middle managers do my nutting, quite literally. So I was quite ardently against them. Yeah. But then as I've had more of these conversations with bigger operators, I've realised, if you want to actually get this to a scalable business that is X number of sites, X number of, X number of customers, X number of employees, you need middle managers because they're the scaffolding that gets the shit moving, whatever you want to call it. I think the art of just basically under-promise, over-deliver are brilliant. What are other ways to be a successful middle manager?
I think when you're joining a company that's got, some, SoHo House is a great example of people that have been there, 10 years. And that their opinion of you is going to be really, really important. But you also got to manage them. You've also got to, put your line in the sand. This is how I like to operate. This is how, I see things. These are my standards. This is the behaviours that I'm looking for. And we got all of the managers together of everything that I was looking after. And Nick had obviously asked half of them that he trusted, this new guy in, what do you think? And he said to all of the room, he said, this is Graham, he's one of us. So I think that connection with, and real connection, not blow smoke up people's arse just so, you can get whatever. That real connection and that real honesty with everyone around you just goes and goes and goes, because you do make mistakes and you do, some stuff. And being... I think also, early doors, you've got to be a super team player. Even if you're leading, you've got to be on the pitch. So when we open Molly's... And
sorry, so this is for this specific example, this is a manager going into the business.
Yeah, I joined. Yeah. And
talk about on the pitch, off the pitch. I think that was...
Laura
and Chris did.
Because we opened Molly's and, we had some good expectations. And, one day we were in the shit. I was like... Right.
Why were you in the shit?
Just so busy, just unbelievably busy. And it was just like, okay, we're rolling and it's still going. Everything's, as it should be. But, there was no, after lunch it will die off. It was like, we just got another wave. And, I rolled my sleeves up. I was like, okay, I remember the table numbers from the layout. I'm just going to run food. And, obviously that got back to Nick, who lived 5 miles away. He said, I hear you were running food the other day. I'm like, we do what it takes. It's like, okay, and that's another kind of little brownie point. But I think you've got to demonstrate that you're there for the greater good, for the team, for the founder and for the business. You're not there for you. And I think those people that make that mistake of, I'm here, I'm going to do a great job, I've got this big truck of ego coming with me because I'm da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Before they've understood the business, before they've understand the dynamics, the business, understand what the problems are. Because if you are brought in to a business with a founder or a big corporation, it's not because they go, I saw his CV, we should get rid of who we've got, who's doing a brilliant job, and we should get this person in. It's because something's not right. So that part of solving the problem and fixing it, how you fix it, what the priorities are, just goes all the way.
What were the, you said you've got this empty bank account of trust between the founder and the operator at the beginning, which I think is a beautiful way of putting it. You said in that 6 months, at some point, there's going to be a clash. That's business.
Yeah.
There's just no two ways about it.
Yeah.
Like Rich and I clash all the time. Like, what were some of the clashes you had with Nick?
I think probably just, the speed of getting things done. I think there was probably some higher decisions that weren't quite cool enough for Soho House.
Talk to me more about that.
Just some kind of managers that were, probably, instead of kind of Gucci, were probably a bit Fred Perry, that just, weren't, Soho House, just beautiful people all over the place. And, I think that was probably it. Just, sometimes around pace and just a couple of personnel things. And what's I saw him at Mountain, and
the restaurant.
I was sitting down. Yeah. Oh, we were right by the open kitchen.
Yeah.
The poor dude making the crab omelette. He did 6. I was like, he's going to be taken off that. And literally on number 7 that went in the bin, he was taken off. The beauty of an open kitchen. And I was sitting with a couple of guys. Oh, there's Nick Jones. I said, yeah. I said, just watch. Literally came over. How you doing, Graham? How's it going? How's things? Da-da-da. Right, what are you up to? Oh, yeah, right. How did it work out with Caravan? 30 seconds, literally, I sat a bit taller. Before he left, must call me. I'm not going to call him unless, I need a favour or something. But just, that being able, some 3-4 years on, to be, that. And he does it all the time. Yeah. All the time.
I think management is the art of having, I think the management discourse traditionally was like the scientific management principles, like basically, which was born out of the Industrial Revolution and that shit.
Yep.
But I actually think there's an art to management. And I think it boils down to like getting very good at having difficult conversations.
Yep.
Tim Ferriss has got a quote I love, which is like, you are the sum of the difficult conversations you have.
Yep.
Like, how do you approach difficult conversations? And what's the most difficult conversation you've had as a manager?
The most difficult conversation I've had is probably personally. I did an amazing coaching and leadership course with Wagamama, a guy up in Scotland, Jim McNeish.
Jim McNeish, what did he do?
He's like
management
super coach,
right?
Unbelievable. I was like, who do you coach? He impressed me. I'm like, this guy's full of shit. He's like, the Archbishop of Canterbury. I'm like, all right, okay. Now you got my attention.
Yeah.
Our trust account's just gone up. And there was two things he said. One that's really relevant to this: a problem only exists in the absence of the right conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And I just went, stop. Just say that again. Genius.
Wait, say that again. Sorry.
A problem only exists in the absence of a right conversation. And then we went on to whole, framing a conversation rather than me pitching up and going, Dan, let's meet up. I want to have a chat. I'm going, Dan, just to let you know, got some, big money worries, and can we talk at the pub because, I want to see if you can help me out in any way. You're coming, no surprises, to go, right, I've checked my bank account, I've checked my savings. Tell you what, I can lend you $1,000, that's all I can do, but I need it back by this.
So it's giving pre-context to the conversation.
Totally. Why surprise anyone?
And then, so say you're doing a management meeting here, you're saying, listen, mate, like, look, because I'd probably be like that. I'd be like, I wouldn't even say, can we have a call? I'm just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally.
That's interesting.
And if you frame it, they come prepared.
Yeah.
They're there. The minute that you kind of go at someone, what are they going to do? They're not going to listen to you. They're going to get defensive. You're going to have your natural, fight or flight reaction. Whereas you've kind of framed it as like, okay, just to let you know, yeah, I was a dick and I did this and I'm really, really sorry. So, but why didn't you tell me? You know, why am I hearing it from that? And you just solve so much.
What are other...
And being that pure honesty of, you know, I didn't realise this was that important to you. Forgive me. Is there anything else, you know, keep going. Is there anything else that I do that pisses you off? Well, yeah. No. I'm like, okay, cool, right, okay.
How do you think you piss people off as a manager?
I'm not a fan of management. I think of management as, you know, a Caravan. All the staff turn up in their own clobber, wear what they want, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember someone in the industry went, how do I know who's the manager? And I went, is it ticking over? They're like, yeah.
What do you mean, is it ticking over?
Is it a good shift?
Yeah.
Is it a good shift?
Yeah.
I said, just look around. Who's coaching? Who's checking? Who's talking to guests? Who's touching tables? Who's looking at ticket times? And they were like, that girl there. I went, that's the manager, you know? And what they're actually doing is not managing. You know, a manager for me is, I've got a uniform, I've got a position of power so I can lord it over you, and I walk around a clipboard and I'm not really bothered about my team, I'm not really about the guests, and that whole thing. I think you touched on it with Osh about these people that want to progress so they get paid more but work less.
Yeah, they're basically, it's the folly of middle managers.
Yeah.
Oi, I am delighted to announce that the most banging kebab on planet Earth has just joined UberEats. Bababoom. It's banging. It's literally vavavoom for your taste buds. I smash the sweet potato hummus on the reg. The chicken kebabs are insane. I go to the one in Battersea Rise loads of my mates from Clapham just smash it all the time, and they've also got one out east in Stratford. And look, don't say I don't treat ya. If you use the code BOOMDAN40, you're gonna get 40% off when you spend 20 quid or more. So yeah, please do that if you want some banging kebabs. And if you're a restaurant who's looking for an amazing delivery partner, then hit me up. Our partnership with UberEats, we can do some sick things behind the scenes, so please reach out. Thank you so much.
How to get your challenger brand into more supermarkets and increase your current distribution in half the time. Range reviews are happening right now, right this millisecond. Sainsbury's, Waitrose, Tesco, Ocado, Co-op, all looking for new banging challenger brands. Don't miss this range review and have to wait another 6 months. It's long. Don't lose precious shelf space to your competitors. Don't let your buyer pick another brand just because you didn't have a Grand Slam deck. Northstar Category Management help you create banging supermarket pitch decks so good that buyers find it impossible to say no to. Challenger brands like Perfect Ted, Trip, Bold Bean Co, Dash all love Northstar. Look, I am so confident in Northstar transforming your brand. We've got an exclusive Hungry offer. Your first month for free. Yes, free. Plus, we're going to give you a free 30-minute consultancy session to see how your brand is currently performing in category. Click the link in the show notes to book your consultancy session and thank me later.
And sorry, I agree. Like, there's a nuance here. When I say manager, I don't. There's the archaic, old school.
Yeah.
Which is that, you know, sort of. Have you cleaned the fucking bogs?
Yeah.
What's your timesheet? Basically. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't say that word, but I'm still saying, even with this new wave of management, and you know, Osh was talking about Sujan, who's been with him on the podcast.
The manager.
Sujan, who's been with him for, I think, 10 years.
Donkeys at the Guinea, I think.
Yeah, at the Guinea, yeah.
Okay.
I then did a pod about a couple of weeks ago with Ashley, who does the food. I'm actually having lunch with Osh tomorrow at the Devonshire. But I'm
busy, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. But so then Sujan was there and he'd listened to the podcast. So the Osh one went live on the Monday. I recorded with Ash on the Tuesday. So Sujan was there and he's got this sort of. So I agree with you. It's like you don't want to be the dickhead with a clipboard, but you still want that sort of gravitas.
100%.
And it's like what I'm trying to get to is how do you get that? If
that,
you're walking around in
yeah.
just chilled clobber, then people will think you're just not, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that's your engagement with the team, engagement with the customer. You know, you've got, I think the other thing from that Jim McNeish thing, he took the word responsibility and then he just broke it up and went, you have an ability to respond.
Ooh, yeah.
So any situation, and he said,
what do you mean by that?
And he said, the more you become a leader, the more, you know, if something really, like you just said, fucking hell, Rich. You've got an ability, you know.
So bad at this.
You've got an ability to go, hold on a minute. Do I want to lose my shit here? Is this, what do I want? What outcome? You know, Steve Covey's 7 Habits, the end in mind. What outcome do I want? Well, I want to improve the situation. So it's that ability to respond. He got it from, I told you I was crap with names. There was a physician or a doctor in Auschwitz who, you know, got put into the concentration camp. First night, people all around, like losing.
Victor Frankl.
That's it.
Yeah, Man's Search for Meaning. Yeah.
And he just, you know, then had that epiphany.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the next morning realised that when you say good morning to someone, it's built in human instinct. So he said to the guards, morning. Oh, morning.
Yeah, is that the in-between stimulus and response is your ability to choose your response?
Correct.
And that's your freedom.
Totally.
Yeah, that's it.
That was it. And he just took that little bit in terms of management. It's you've got an ability to respond and think about all of these things and framing it with honesty and difficult conversations. It's like, you know, if you let it go 4 times, they'll think that it's the right behaviour. So you got to catch it at the beginning.
What about not over promising, but because I think it works the other way around. For middle management, it's like under promise, over deliver.
Yeah.
But I think founders can sort of founders are lovable, puppies, and they're like, right, we can do this. Even myself included, like, we'll get that sorted. Yeah. And then before you know it, then it's like, and you know, I had this meeting yesterday with this potential agency who may come on board. And they were like, mate, like, you've got so many fucking ideas. Like, they're like, just chill out. Yeah. And I'm like, so I'm trying to work out how you sort of...
You just got to go through what the priorities are.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, founders love all of their sites. You know, Caravan, you know, Exmouth Market was the original and,
such, you know,
special place. You know, I was running food and waiting tables on the 10th anniversary. That was just, you know, the people that were there, you know, Ferguson, Margot and stuff like that. Just
she's the cousin of Lauren.
Yeah. And phenomenal. And you know, King's Cross, you know, the big step, and they'll be like, you know, every store is really important, and then you get a P&L down and go, the reason I'm spending 70% of my time here is because if we want to get to this level of sales or this level of EBITDA, this is the bad boy to do it. And, you know, there was stuff where totally, you know, against what you would as a founder. It's like we give them an overview of sales and a P&L. I'd get the managers in every month. I want you to go through your P&L with your peers. We've got a scorecard. Here you doing? Boom, boom, boom. This is your NPS. You're pissing customers off.
How would you gauge that? It's a net promoter score, right?
Just
detail what that is for listeners.
So you would either have mystery diners. I mean, back in the day, you kind of had a mystery diner, and you'd look at Google or Facebook or something. But now you've got companies that can just pull that in and just tell you this is your score. You know, with people that connect to the Wi-Fi here, when they leave, it's like, would you recommend Ole Steen to a friend? Yes or no? It's that blunt. And you can just go through a scorecard of, you know, what are the really important things. And one of the, you know, my scorecards always start, even now, people. I'm like, people? I'm like, yeah. And they look through and you go, look at your people turnover. You're having the same conversation 5 times a year. Just chef, just hold on to a senior sous, will you? Just hold on. Let's just talk through. Before you fire another senior sous, let's just go through it all. It's like, really, I hadn't realised. Oh, well, he was a prick, and that was that. It's like, let's just, and just put in that structure in of what it is. And, you know, you quickly, I was in a business, I'll not name names, I was in a business, and we had one part of the business that was a different cuisine to the rest. And the food just wasn't good enough, just wasn't good enough. And after 6 weeks, I was like, with the founder, I know what the issue is. What's the issue? Your exec chef. He's great. I said, no, it's not. He's not. He's great at this cuisine, but this cuisine, nowhere near. So we sat down, had a meeting, and the exec chef, after, it was a framed conversation.
The exec chef is basically, it's a level up from the head chef, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost more like, it's like the chef manager, right?
Totally.
That's what it is.
And lots of menu development, and,
So you're not actually in the kitchen.
Not as much.
You're doing a lot of the buying, right?
Exactly, you're doing all of that. And we sat down, and the exec chef said, I know I'm only 50% of where I should be. And I just held the silence. And I went, that's brilliant. And I just looked happy. And he's like, oh, I thought you'd be upset. I went, no, because if you're only doing 50% of your job, you're telling me that I should be halving your salary. Losing his shit. I'm like, dude, if you're only doing 50%, what? And literally the founder was like, just so close to that guy. So close.
Yeah, so how do you balance, like, because I'm a people pleaser, how do you balance being, like, almost not giving a fuck of, like, saying that? Because I wouldn't be able to, I would feel very uncomfortable saying that to someone.
Literally, sitting there. What is the end goal? What do we want to do?
Yeah.
Well, I need to pay the bank, and I need to pay that investor, and we've got a payroll of 300 people.
Yeah.
Okay, so in order of priority, and the reason I got you in is my wife's sick and tired of me doing 60 hours a week, so I need you to, if the phone goes at the weekend, it's your phone. Right, we've got that. And then they're the kind of crimp-ons, so when you do have that falling out, and you do fall, you're like, dude, remember, we're falling out because of your mate, that you're comping 300 quid a month. We're falling out because of that.
I'm not talking about the founder, I'm talking about from when you're, like, trying to have difficult conversations with people you look after. Like, I don't know, I'm not very good at doing that. Like, it just fills me with anxiety. Like, what's the art of basically saying, because I would basically just be like, oh, don't worry, it's fine, like, it's all good.
But it's not.
Yeah, but so this is what I'm asking you.
It's not.
Yeah, so how do you
think we're doing? How do you think we're getting on? It's a date. Oh my God, she. How do you think it's going? Yeah. do you not have friends?
I was thinking you're doing something else then, mate.
do you not have friends that comment on you eating with your mouth open? Yeah, all the time, but they've grown to love me for it. And I think that as long as you come from a place that isn't about trying to assert power, that isn't aggressive, and you come from a really honest place of fairness, because I think that if you've got people in a job that, like an exec chef, if they're not doing a good enough job, then that's not fair to their team. It's also not fair to the founder because they're taking a 70 grand salary when they don't deserve it. And more importantly, it's not fair to that individual. They're just deluding themselves. And I don't think that you go in and like, hey mate, you're shit, do this, and this in a week, or you're toast. It's just about having that conversation of going, where are your skill gaps? Okay, I get that's a skill gap, but I really need to fill that gap around that cuisine.
Yeah.
What's the solution? Well, the head chef, their dad's Italian, right? So maybe I should just step back and let them get the fuck on with it. That's a good idea. Why don't you do that? Because then the other brands will know that they've got the autonomy, and then suddenly I'm like, ego. That's what you're worried about, isn't it? Ego. Yeah, ego. I'm worried about ego. Okay, so let's just put that out. Let's be really clear. The reason that we're elevating the head chef is they're better at something. So you know what, dude? Being a senior person and admitting a vulnerability is honesty. It's a strength.
So what are some of your vulnerabilities over the years from a managerial perspective? Or leadership perspective, I should say.
I'm super high trust and high support. And that can bite you.
How so?
And just putting faith in people, and they're going to do the right thing, and it just doesn't happen. And of course, that whole bit of, I delegated it. Just because you delegated it doesn't mean you're absolved of responsibility. So I'd say probably that kind of trust bit of, always thinking someone's going to do the right thing has probably been the biggest one. And
what are some of them? Yeah, go on. Sorry, carry on.
And then I'd say probably just not listening to your gut early enough, and I think that's an art that's being lost, because everyone's telling you, look at the data. The data will tell you the answer. Look at the data. The data will tell you the answer. And then when you've got that tension between you and your gut and the data, and your gut's going, dude, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. And that's happened a couple of times, and it's happened quite recently, where it's just like, I wish I pulled that pin earlier. And I remember, I can't remember the dude that wrote the book, but he referenced to Colin Powell, who was George Bush's Secretary of State, who had the 40-70 rule. He's like, if I had 40% of the information, it wasn't enough. I wasn't guaranteed to make the right decision. If I had 70% of the information, I waited too long.
Yeah.
I think...
So basically, you want to go for something. You basically want somewhere between 40 and 70% to make a decision.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably playing it a little bit safe, and I want to be over that 50% mark.
Yeah.
To go.
Give me an example of that at Ole Steen.
Just performance. The numbers on a sheet are telling you something, but yet your gut and what you see, and tone of voice and listening. I think it's really important to listen, but also listen what's not being said.
Yeah, but what's an actual example of? I get the data sort of. I get it from the top level, but specifically, is it we sold too many of these pastries, or
No, it was just someone. It was a manager, a senior manager's performance.
Right.
That I came into the business, and everyone's like, man, brilliant, phenomenal. I'm like, I'm not getting phenomenal, I mean, been around the block a few times, and this is just not picking up the right signals.
What are some of the mistakes you've made with having difficult conversations that have really taught you?
Going in way too early, thinking, hey, everyone's the same, and
by that you mean?
Well, just thinking, that everyone has got at least £1,000 in their trust bank account with me,
right? Okay,
and just not doing that. Let's, I'm very much, 1,000 miles an hour. Glyn House, who's at Cafe Nero, was the ops director at Wagamama. He said, when you come into this office, it's like a tube train. Like, I don't even see you, but I just feel this gush, and then you walk past. I'm just 1,000 miles an hour. So, I kind of jump in, and there's been conversations where I'm like, yeah, we've done the whole, how are you, how's the family? And I framed it, but they didn't quite catch on to it. I've gone deep in. You're like, oh, dude, please stop crying. Please stop crying. Right, let's beep, beep, beep. Let's back that truck up. Right, and then you're having to build that all over again, and then you walk out and go, fuck, I've just gone overdrawn there on that trust. Got to build that up. So
how do you build it back up?
Go back to the basics.
Just
go back to the basics, and I think
pint and a packet of crisps, sort of basics, or anything else.
Yeah, and run at it, and run at it, and that bit of honesty, just let things cool down, and I've done that. 24 hours later, been to see the person, and I didn't expect you here, dude. Come to apologise. I right rawly screwed that up. Right rawly. I didn't frame it enough. I didn't check you're okay. I didn't check what else was going on. Really, really screwed that up. Huge apologies, sincere. I know I'm overdrawn in our trust bank account, but let's not forget we still need to talk about that, and we still need to fix it, but this is where I'm at. And they're like, okay, appreciate that.
Yeah. One thing I want to explore with you, mate, is processes, and we can almost go through the different textures from Wagamama to the chippy to Caravan, so Ole Steen, SoHo House. I think they're all high performance businesses. And I also think there's like, in some businesses, you'll pick up maybe one thing that will stick with you, right?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of not obsessed, but one of the things that fascinates me is this scaffolding, management scaffolding. It's like, how do you get this thing from A to B? What are some of the process you put in place to get people when they to bring them their full selves to work, to go the extra mile, to stay past 6 p.m. Maybe not in with the Danish because they fuck off and put their kids to bed, right? But we'll get onto that one. But I think Moju, you know the shops brand Moju. Yeah, Rich has been on this pod. He's a legend. They're very good at like incentivizing the team, but also aligning it with the values of the brands. They have like a competition each month, like whoever did the best for the. It's kind of like obvious things. What are some of the things that that you saw at Wagamama or SoHo House or Caravan that really got the best out of people?
Yeah. The number one thing, which sadly I think is a soft cost, so it's just been cut again and again and again.
Soft cost?
Yeah, is training. It's gone out the window. It really has, and I think with... we're all complaining.
Across all businesses now?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there are some people that do it well. I mean, and especially if you've got a rollout juggernaut like Gals, they're probably, on...
So Tom said to me that he goes... I called it the Tower of Tom Molnar because it's like, he's very like, he's an American surfer dude, like rocks up, ciggy, skateboard, he's a G, yeah? But he was basically saying like, training, my approach for training is actually telling people to slow down. It's a day where you're not in the weeds.
Correct.
And he says, we have these big speed bumps that we put in place to actually slow the fucker down.
Yeah.
Slow us, I'm pulling out all these managerial
literally, I was, it was part of Grand Met at the time, so I was lucky enough to work with Robin Rowland, and I left.
Robin Rowland?
He did Yo for quite a while. He's now got an investment vehicle, but he's a don, for sure. And I left an AGM role in a nice restaurant, so assistant general manager, to go and be a host at TGI Fridays. They just opened in Covent Garden, and my buddy was working there, and he's like, "Gee, get yourself down here, dude. Get yourself down here." And I went in, I'm like, "Dude, you need a manager. I'm your man." It's like, "We need a host, and you can do a trial." And I then became a waiter, and I think my waiter training was 4 weeks.
How old were you at this point?
Mid-20s.
Yeah.
I then became a bartender. My bartender training was 8 to 12 weeks. You had to know 150 cocktails. Not blag it, not go and look at a manual. You had to know it. You had to know the garnish. You had to know the spec of the garnish. It's like, what do you mean? It's a strawberry. No, it's got to be a minimum of 1.5 inches round. We had a little tape measure. Then went into management training. I think that was 3 months. Fast forward to 2012, I'm at Wagamama, and they're like, "Yeah, we're thinking of cutting the management training from a month to 2 weeks." Like, you're not going to learn shit in 2 weeks. You're just not going to do it. And it's just this cost that you can see that, I just think it's, as times get harder, you're like, yeah, let's cut that. But you don't see what that looks like with the customer. So an absolute game changer here, as I mentioned to you before about, we had a record week in September where I'm on honeymoon, was all of August, I gave every single manager 25 hours to train their team. So on what? 25 hours a week to get your team better. Okay, so I'll come. What's your problem? Our coffee's a bit shit. Great. I got a coffee trainer. They're going to come and spend time with you. And that's all we did in August. We just trained every single person. Got all of the diligent stuff out of the way and food safety and all that shit. But we just trained. Because when everyone came back from holiday, I said, look, all of the work we've been doing on brand, all of the work we've been doing on product, people are going to come back. And if we don't win them first time, we're done. We've got to go back to the drawing board. And, since September, we've just been flying. And I honestly believe that, that bit about Osh said, the GM, you could just see him coaching. That's his day. Is
Sujan.
Yeah, Sujan.
Yeah.
I think told you I was Robert's names.
No, but I thought you meant the fucker with the clipboard.
But I think that's the bit has been lost. It's like, you know, and I think the bit, and probably the bit where I kind of challenge the clipboard bit, the whole leadership, the difference between a leader and a manager is just massive. You know, a leader's thinking about strategy of, you know, who's my replacement? I'm going on holiday for 2 weeks. Who's going to run the show? Oh, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to develop this person. You know, and have that the kind of wanky mantra, each one teach one. Teach someone. What are you doing? Oh, dude, I'm just making this beurre blanc. Ah, no idea. I'm a Pret chef. Right, so what we do, we put the butter in, don't throw it all in at once. Dude, I can make a beurre blanc. Because nobody gets up in the morning and goes, I'm going to work to do a really shit job. They just don't. I don't believe that, you know, that's in anyone's brain of going, I'm going to do a shit job. When they get to work, it's just like, oh, that prick. That's not working. The oven's not working still. They haven't got that fixed. Yeah, that window's still cracked. Yeah, the uniform hasn't been delivered again. That's when they kind of get down into that bit of going, why should, you know, you don't give a fuck. Why should I give a fuck? And I think that if you've got that culture of, you know, every day you've got to learn something, show something, develop someone, it just makes such a difference in kind of that bit of, you're talking about that framework, that structure.
Scaffolding.
It's not like, I know what I'm doing, so I have all the power, and I'm just going to treat, you know, mushroom management, keep them in the dark and feed them shit. It's I'm going to share everything with you. This is, you know, P&L, this is that. You know, manager, new guy who's been in several brands, he's like, I've never been able to ask this question. Yeah? What the fuck is EBITDA? I'm like, dude, you know, and your bit about incentivising, our GMs this year have got a 12 grand potential bonus. 12 grand. You know, and I sat down the other day and did a pie chart of their benefit package. I'm like, you know, 54% of your benefit package is your pay. You know, all this other stuff. I get health insurance? Yeah, we're with Vitality. I did not know that. Who did your induction? You know, and you're just finding out all that bits. And I think that training bit, bonds, puts the framework in. It's like, okay, I know you don't know how to do it, but let me help you do that. It's like, oh, thanks, brother. You've just given me a little bit of that. I like that. You know, and whenever we discover something new, whether it's, you know, someone recommends a book, a phrase or something that just sticks with you, there's that little spark and that little human connection going, oh man, you know, I remember telling me that. You know, back to Glyn at Wagamama.
Who's Glyn? Was he the...
He was the ops director. He's now MD at Nero. I said, what's the expenses policy? I was looking, you know, spoke to HR, and he went, don't take the piss. I went, what? He said, we've probably got a policy somewhere, but don't take the piss. And for the rest of my life, from 2012 till, I think it was the 3rd of January, someone asked me, oh, expenses policy. I'm like, don't take the piss. And there's that connection, and I hold Glyn in huge esteem because of that connection. And I think that you can have that, and that bit of trust, you know, when you're in a brigade in a kitchen and, you know, you're in the weeds, someone's going to come and help you out. You forage that team, you forage that culture because you're sharing information. Whereas, you know, as soon as you stick someone in silos and go, no, you're the manager of haberdashery, please don't come into the furniture department. You know, there are amazing businesses. I met with a big supermarket the other day. It's like, yeah, I've only been a buyer in this category for 4 weeks. I'm like, oh, you're new to the business? It's like, no, I've been with the business 14 years. I'm like, oh, he's like, you know, to keep us fresh, new eyes, we move around the business. I'm like, genius.
Yeah, it's a pain in the arse for the brand.
Yeah.
Can't build a relationship with the buyer. Yeah.
I'm in with the buyer.
Yeah.
They've changed.
Yeah, they change it the whole time. Yeah. Well, from our side, it's a nightmare. Yeah. But so the soft cost of management and training is dwindling.
Totally.
Much of our listeners will not even have the budgets of any of those brands you've worked for. If you could, out of all your training and your first-hand experience, what would you say are like 3 core fucking lessons? That's just like, if you're a founder about to build a team, or if you're a manager going into a challenger brand, or you're a manager who's been at a brand for a while, like what would you say are your 3 things, Graham?
Great question. I'd carve out the time. I'd diarise it, literally, and let everyone know that kind of one-to-one, and even if it's just, let's just grab a coffee and let's just talk through how's it going. You know, what's good, what's bad. Stop, start, continue, that kind of shit.
Stop, start, continue.
Yeah. So you know, we're doing a quick appraisal, and you know, just to let you know, you pissed me off because you're 5 minutes late every Thursday. Can you knock that on the head? Because it's, you know, affecting the team. Okay. Well, see, my bus and this. Get an earlier bus, dude. In fact, let's put you on the day shift so you're never late on a Thursday. Boom. And then the continue piece is, the other day, when you put your arm around the commie and you took them through that, do more of that, dude. Do more of that. That's just fucking magic.
Yeah,
you didn't see him. You didn't see him when you walked away.
Yeah,
but man, he was just buzzing.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, start. What do you want me to start? I want you to start taking over this part of the stock take. I want you to start taking over that. Because you're ready.
What is that 3? What's that?
Stop, start, continue. I think that's probably, you know.
Okay, that's brilliant. That's the first one. Next one.
And with that, carve time.
Carve time.
Yeah, just diarise it. Just
with the person you're managing.
Absolutely, and just go right Monday, whatever, and then stick to it. Don't be flaky. Stick to it and go. You know, when's good for you? For us, just to have a coffee, whatever period of time that you've got spare.
What else?
I'd probably share the load, and even if it's uncomfortable, you know, whether it's like, you know, guys, the bank's breathing down my neck, or, you know, we had a killer of a December, without a doubt. And then I think whilst you're sharing the information, share the love as well. You know, I think if you're a founder and you're doing well, you know, there's a story of Ole Steen when they sold the company.
Ole Steen or Ole Steen?
Ole Steen. You
Ole.
can say whatever way.
Yeah.
One of them, week later, pitched up to one of the shops in the Lamborghini. All the staff, hey, sold the business, got a Lamborghini. What did we get, dude?
Yeah.
What did we get?
Yeah.
So I think that bit of, you know, if you can, you know, I joined a company, Seattle Coffee Company, and we sold to Starbucks.
Yeah, was that with Jeremy Torres?
Yeah, Torres at Macatonia, who are Union Coffee.
Yeah. They set that up, didn't they?
So they supplied Scott and Ali Svensson, who were from Seattle.
Yeah.
Scott, Mr. Finance.
So was that when they were in the UK?
Yeah.
That went to Starbucks, didn't it?
Yeah, sold 56 stores, 56 million.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think it was the first Christmas, we opened 12 stores. And they were like, dude, you know, pay's tight. Just to let you know, payroll's really tight. How's things with you? I'm like, I can skip a month. Why? What's the deal? It's like, you know, we obviously over-egged it. I'm like, okay. And they were like, why? I'm like, well, can I help? Well, what do you mean? I'm like, can I help in any way? I'm like, do you want some shares? I'm like, how much are they worth? You know, did a bit of calculation.
Yeah.
When Starbucks bought Seattle, I think a week later I went out and bought a Saab convertible. I'm like, they shared the love.
Yeah.
So I think it's that, be honest and share the love.
Some lessons. So I'm some management textbooks wind me up, or did at university, because I was like, this is a load of bollocks. Because there's some lessons you can only learn through experience.
Yeah.
Like I think the one, like, heartbreak, right? When you go through that, you can put that on a fucking textbook, but until you go through that pain,
I'll feel it.
you have to experience that to understand it, right? And it's horrible.
Totally.
And I think that's the same with, I'd love to know what some of those are, some of those hard lessons you can only learn, that you couldn't learn on a textbook, you can only learn through painful experience. What have they been in this wonderful world of operations for you?
I think maybe, cash flow.
Why cash flow?
You just, it's one of those things that I've got this ongoing vanity and sanity, and people can be going, like, hey, look at us, we're getting it, we're doing these record sales, and how much, sales, and then you get to the bottom and you'd be like, but you didn't convert it. You just didn't, and that's the sanity. The bank manager will be like, or your investors will be like, that's really, really cool, but what's your EBITDA? What did you make physical money? So I think that's really, really, really important. It's just focus on that and making sure efforts turn into results. You can do loads of really nice stuff. We're going to do this campaign. I remember Starbucks. We're going to do this big campaign. Yeah. I'm like, what's it going to give us? Cash. We're going to spend all of this money. What's the ROI?
The IBM guy's got a thing I like, which is so many people are working so hard but achieving so little. It's kind of like the busy syndrome.
Yeah, busy fools.
Yeah, but step back.
Totally.
It's what Tom was saying. It's like, step back, because you can then...
Yeah.
And so I'm not very good at this, so I just go straight in.
Yeah.
But like, it's... I think it's interesting. And then what are some of the other sort of painful lessons? Like, like in the gym, I'm some sort of tonk Donny, right? But like, I occasionally, there's the things that you get on your hands from like lifting, those sort of like scabs. Like you get, those are the sort of lessons I'm trying to get to. Like, what would those be? So cash flow, EBITDA, sanity versus vanity.
Yeah. People hiring, as I said before, hiring the wrong people is probably the big one. Sometimes, just running too fast, or like me, stupid geography. You're an hour and a half away from everything that you got to do, and it's all on you. So I think geography, especially when you're doing rollouts, is a big one. Of we're gonna go here.
What's the biggest rollout you've done across any of the businesses?
I think. Deep Blue, we went pretty hard and fast over the 5 years. Wagamama, I joined probably around the 55, 60 store and left at 120. And that was being on the other side of it. It's like, we're opening, I don't know, somewhere down in Exeter or Dorchester. Like, what? It's like, Dorchester, man. It's like, that's a 4-hour drive and a 4-hour back. That wasn't particularly productive. Why Dorchester? Oh, well, we've got a sweet deal. The other big one, I would say, definitely around property is rent. Be kind of really wary and stay close to your landlord. And a lot of businesses I've seen. In fact, a guy that was at Caravan, Charlie, he was the GM at X Market. I'm leaving, I'm going to go and do my own thing, and this is it. I've taken everything you've taught me about P&Ls. I'm like, where's your rent? Oh, don't worry, it's rent-free for a year. I was like, okay, well, what's your rent after that? I was like, Charlie, just to let you know, in March next year, you're fucked. What? I'm like, look at your rent as a percent of your sales. It's not going to happen. So I think, that's a big watch out of just going through all of that affordability. And also I think founders should probably do that before, you get someone in and go, right, I'm going to pay someone to come and do a big role. Is, big salary, what am I getting for that? And I think when you're at that stage, if I could kind of akin it to a promoted football team, rather than going, right, let's go and buy, Wayne Rooney, let's see who we can grow beforehand, because we're going to be paying Wayne Rooney half of our total labour,
Yeah.
our labour spend, and we don't have any guarantees that he's going to score the 50 goals that he's scored at Man U. Also, the people around him at Man U were really, really good. So that's how he scored lots of goals. So I think that's probably a watch out as well.
Yeah, it's like Championship. There's a Mark Palmer he's on the board at Union.
All right.
And he did Green and Blacks.
Yes.
He was the marketing director of Mike Green and Blacks, and he's been on the podcast like 3 times. He's become a good friend of mine, and he now does Course and Press. You know, the juice.
Of course.
Yeah. And
Genius.
He was saying so many of these founders or brands, they want to go and hire, a Harry Kane or a Ronaldinho, or whatever. And it's like actually, and that's 100 bags, 100 bags for a salary.
Yeah.
It's like actually you could just get 3 or 4 young
100%.
kids who are hungry.
Yeah.
And get them moulded in.
Yeah.
And I think there is this idea of like, in terms of the tension, at some point as these brands get bigger and bigger, the founder gets insecure.
Totally.
They've got those, they're just like, right, I'm going to spunk it on this big senior person. And it's like, actually, you could have just got 3 other amazing people.
Yeah.
Not to say that doesn't always
No, absolutely. And I think
this is the tension we're playing.
Yeah, no,
with.
absolutely. And the other watch out is, size of departments and that dick swinging of, I've got, 5 people in product development. I've got this many in marketing. It's just
What do you mean?
when people are growing their business.
Oh, they talk.
And you've got to keep an eye on that because whether it's cans of Colston or bags of coffee, you've got to sell a lot to pay for that. And I always remember a business that was looking at private equity, and the guy's first question was, what's your company overheads? All of this head office, what percentages of that? And the answer was, boom, it's like, you're not ready for growth. You're telling me that you've got this. You're not ready at growth, because it was like low single digits. And then managed to pick up on that conversation. Said, so what's too much? It's like, some people, we look at businesses and their head office costs are like nearly 20%. They're going bust. And it's like, so where's the sweet spot? And I always, whatever business, look at it and go, or, friends are in business. I got a mate that's, completely different sector. And he's like, cash flow's getting tight. I'm like, what's your head office costs? I'm like, if it's more than like 12%, you're in the shit. You've got to start making people redundant. He's like, oh, fuck. We've got to start making people redundant. It's like, you can sleepwalk into so many things. You've got to be, and I think, the bit with founders that you're kind of picking up on is you can just go, you were worried about chipped crockery or stuff that wasn't polished. That's on me. Don't worry about that. Go and worry about what's next. Go and worry about whatever it is. Just this is on me, okay? But fuck it up. I get it wrong. That's on me, But go and worry about something else. That's done.
A couple of things. We'll wrap this up, mate.
Yeah.
Loving this. There's just so much, just delicious nuance. But working with the Danish and Hygge, is it Hygge, Hygge? Hygge, there we go.
Yeah.
I think their approach to life, let alone sort of management or running businesses, is endlessly intriguing. There's a brand called Betivo. I think she's not from. I don't think she's Danish. I think she's from Norway. Emma, and she was talking a lot about sort of the Scandi lifestyle, Nordic lifestyle. You spend a lot of time in Denmark with these guys. Like, what have you learned from their approach to things?
I think to kind of pre-frame it, getting, the business has decided to get a chairman, which was my old boss at Wagamama, David Campbell, who I loved working with so much. When he said, do you fancy coming to help me out? It was like an absolute must. And the senior team, as I joined, the CEO, the CFO, changed quite quickly. And David, is an absolute legend. He sold Virgin Radio. He ran the Dome O2. You know, he was the guy that took the phone call. You know, Madonna's running 2 hours late. It's like, well, we closed because the tube's closed, Madonna, sorry. You know, he was the driving force behind Wagamama's success. So he's brought something in to, you know, the business got together in the 90s. Ole Steen got together then and kind of grew. And he's kind of brought this pace to what was, you know, Boston Consulting Matrix. It wasn't a dog, but, you know, it was
Boston Consulting Matrix?
You've got your stars, your cash cows, your dogs. So it's just this kind of matrix of where different parts of the business is. And he's just brought this energy back in, because I think that, I wouldn't say it was getting a bit lazy, but you could see that there's just this whole different wave of what's possible. And, you know, even in a really mature market, like for likes in Denmark yesterday, I think was something like 11% in a really mature market of 108 stores. So I think that's been kind of a wake up. It depends in what part of Denmark, because you've got one part of Denmark that will just be like, you need to cut your hair. Mm-hmm. What is this jacket? Mm-hmm. Terrible accent. But
I think it's quite good.
But just super direct. And you're like, whoa. And then you got another side that's like, I'm not going to offend you. I don't want to offend you. I just want this to be cordial, and I just want us to just carry on and it all be nice. But I think that there is a really nice precision, you know, of execution. Super hospitable. Really like, you know, genuine. Gorgeous country. I mean, they're really connected with nature. Really focused on family, really focused on kids. And you kind of think, where did we lose that? Did we ever have that? But, you know, not a lot of crime, and, you know, it's sociable. Everything's based at
great
home.
Pastries.
Yeah, but that's the thing, you know, you kind of think pastries, you know, sweet stuff. Everyone would be, you know, like 25 stone. But then you've got the flip side of rye bread, and it's just like open sandwich. It's like, why open? It's like, well, because you don't really need 2 bits of rye. That's enough fibre. And, you know, just the freshness of stuff, the provenance of stuff. It's just, you know, the river that goes through Copenhagen, you can swim in all year round, because they've got 2 separate sewage systems. So your sewage will never meet fresh water. They're completely different. It's like, and I was, you know, I was like, there are people there. I came out of a store, saw this big group in the distance, you know, all working out. I'm like, look at that, I bet there's some fit mums there. They were all over 70. All over 70, you know, November, giving it. I'm like, man, this is really, really good. And from a business point of view, you know, you've got Nordic, who've got the fat drug. You know, they're you know,
Fat drug.
The jab, the weight loss.
Zempic,
yeah. So you're you know, that I think.
Is that from Norway?
Yeah. They're Norway. No, not Norway. I think they could be Danish, actually. They could be Danish. But you got some big, you know, Maersk, the shipping containers. You got some big companies, and I think probably the best example is you go to Copenhagen Airport, and every single one there is a local Danish brand. So we've got 5 stores in Copenhagen Airport. You've got Gasoline Burger, which is, you know, an amazing burger. I think they've got a couple of stores in town, but everything's local, bar the electronics. You know, Joe and the Juice, which, you know, is from that region. I think there's a couple there.
What's Copenhagen like compared to London?
Oh man, it's lush. You know, that whole bit of aggression isn't there. You know, is this person passing me on a bike going to try and nick my phone? Just totally goes out of your head. It's pretty much flat, so everyone rides a bike. The only real hill, which is not even a hill, is where the old Carlsberg brewery was. Berg is hill. and the guy's son was called Carl. So he's like, we got the brewery here.
You're joking
So
me.
it's Carlsberg. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
You know, transport, clean, on time. There's no the honesty. You buy a ticket and you get on. There's no barriers. Nothing. You could just go, yeah, I'm gonna do it. If you get caught, I think it's a bit of a heavy fine. But the social embarrassment of being a wrong 'un is huge. It's really you should 100% go, and when you do, let me know, and we'll hook up. It's just so nice, so calm. It's a bit expensive, but yeah, families rocking around, loads of cyclists. It starts early, it finishes kind of early. You know, I've kind of been there like, what now? And they're like, now we go to bed. It's midnight. This is late.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very, very cool culture. And the nice thing is that we can bring some of that here. And, you know, the culture within our team is really, really cool.
What do you bring from there to
Just
here?
that whole bit of focus on people, that whole bit of focus on family, and all of those good behaviours. You know, when I joined, it was staff food was depending on how many hours you worked of what you could have. So if you worked 4 hours, you could have a croissant. But if you worked 8 hours, you could have a filled croissant. I was just like, 40% of our team are students. It's like, do you know how expensive it is to eat? Eat what you want. What? Eat what you want. I mean, physically, how much food can you eat? You know, how much? Take some bread home. So the guys, every week take some bread home. It's like, that's what we would do with friends, no? So just stuff like that, really, looking after people, being calm, and just that extending it to the customer. I think before it was probably a little bit, let's be a bit QSR, let's be a little bit disingenuous. Do you want a large one? Do you want a large one? Instead of, hey, how are you? Sorry? Oh, I'm all right. Okay, you look a little... Actually, I had an awful morning. That coffee's on me. See you in a bit. So yeah, pretty cool. It's funny. I thought the best time of my life was at Wagamama because it was just such a great team and we just kept going and going. But the last year and a half, made some mistakes early doors, thinking our range is too big. Cut some SKUs, and it's like, okay. That didn't work out.
Why didn't that work out? What SKUs did you cut?
You need just categories, just bringing them down. It's just like, you want a choice of, whatever it is. And some days you want to be kind of a bit decadent because it's Friday and it's the weekend and you don't care. So you're going to buy that slightly more expensive pastry or cake. Which you wouldn't do on a Monday. And I'm looking at data going, man, look at the waste on this. Right, let's cut that. When really what I should have just done is done half the production there, double it there. Basic fundamentals like that. But yeah, it's been an absolute blast. And the team that we've got together in a really short space of time, totally blessed. Good things.
Mate, let's wrap that up.
Yeah.
I've absolutely loved that. It's it's just so good to get. What coming into this, I wanted to get some of those managerial and managerial is probably not the right word. Operator lessons and just how to just take the sting out of things, which for selfishly is what I really need help with. And you've given an abundance of lessons. So thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure.
Really appreciate that.
Yeah, totally.